Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be unboxing and reviewing the MEEPO V3 Max electric skateboard. The V3 Max is the latest refresh of MEEPO's flagship entry-level hub motor electric longboard. The board currently retails for $469, discounted from the typical cost of nearly $700. At this price point, the V3 Max aims to bring a new level of performance to an iconic, affordable, proven MEEPO form factor. So jumping right into the unboxing, the board comes very well packaged with an outer shipping box and a custom MEEPO branded inner box. The board arrives packed in custom foam cutouts with a protective top cover. Removing the board reveals a foam box that contains all of the accessories. First up, there is the user manual for the board, which contains a lot of helpful tips for getting started. Second, there is the remote controller. This is the M6C remote, which MEEPO uses across most of their product line at this point. This remote is pretty comfortable, but I personally think it's just a little bit too big and the shape isn't quite right for the most ergonomic hold. The construction overall feels pretty solid compared to past MEEPO remotes that I've tried, but the throttle wheel does seem a little bit cheap. These buttons feel really nice and solid with a nice rubberized finish. The colorized screen for live data is an awesome touch as a huge upgrade over the V5, though I do think that the graphics look a little bit cheesy. Overall, my thoughts on this remote are pretty mixed, but I generally felt that it was great given the price of the board. Third, there is the charger for the board, which looks very standard. It charges at a rate of 2.5 amps, giving the board a total charge time of around 3 hours. The charger uses this 3-pin connector, which MEEPO loves to use on their boards. It also comes with a US wall power cord. Next, there are some tools. First is this Allen key, which is useful for board maintenance. Second, there is a T-tool, which is a simple yet vital component for any skater to have. Lastly, there is the charger for the remote, which is a standard USB-C cable. And that's everything. Here's a closer look at all of the accessories included with the V3 Max. With the unboxing done, we are going to go over all of the components that make up this board. For starters, the V3 Max looks super clean, simple, and minimalistic. This board screams MEEPO in the shape of the deck, trucks, enclosures, and overall aesthetic. The deck is 38 inches long and just under 9 inches wide with a really subtle concave, so this board is honestly pretty flat. The deck is made from 8 layers of maple and 1 layer of bamboo, and utilizes this outline shape that really reminds me of a less accentuated loaded Vanguard. The deck has a built-in handle for easy carrying, just like the V5, and also features nose and tail guards. The grip tape is standard with a design that mimics the boosted stealth grip tape pattern, which the board seems to try to mimic overall. The board comes stock with 90mm 78A durometer wheels. These wheels have a 60mm contact patch with a hidden Kegel core. I also love the accented yellow design on the rims. The trucks on the board are 7-inch wide 45-degree shredder RKP trucks. These look really similar to past generations from MEEPO and are pretty much your run-of-the-mill RKP longboard truck. The rear truck of the board is a little different from past versions and houses the 2 hub motors. While previous versions of the rear truck cantilevered the hub motors out with a clamp, these versions have an axle all the way through that holds the hub motors much more like a typical wheel. This design should increase the overall strength, which is a great improvement, as I have friends that have snapped multiple hub motor axles on older boards. The board is powered by the 2 hub motors on the rear truck that are each rated for 800 watts. Interestingly, the hub motor sleeves are 94mm in diameter with a 66mm contact patch and an 83A durometer. This makes the rear wheels on the board 4mm larger than the front wheels. The sleeves on this board feature these beautiful plastic cores with a star-shaped pattern on them that adds a pop to the board. Shifting over to the electronics, the V3 Max utilizes a dual enclosure setup, meaning that the battery is in the front enclosure while the ESC is in the rear enclosure. The battery is a 12S3P made from Li-Shen cells for a total capacity of 324 watt-hours. This pack is a massive upgrade over the previous 10S 144 watt-hour battery in the MEEPO V5. 324 watt-hours is pretty impressive given the price. The ESC used on the board is a Lingyi FOC24H controller. Lingyi ESCs have greatly improved over the years with MEEPO, and this one includes more features than the previous versions used on the budget MEEPO boards. The rear enclosure also has a nice heatsink on the back face for passive cooling. The power switch to the board is located centrally on the rear enclosure with an LED power indicator right below it, while the charge port is on the front end of the battery enclosure. Both of the enclosures are made from a hard plastic and don't try to do too much. The aesthetic and design is really simple and effective for what a budget board needs to do. Some other important specs include the max rider weight of 330 pounds, a total board weight of 19.8 pounds, and an IPX5 waterproof rating. And that concludes all of the major components used on the board. At first glance, the V3 Max looks and feels really refined with major upgrades over the V5. The standout details here include the larger 324 watt-hour battery, stronger 800 watt motors, and the new rear truck design. The review portion of this video is split into categories detailing each of the key performance areas of the board with our experience and analysis, which can be skipped to using the chapters built into this video. The first category is the top speed of the board. MEEPO advertises that the top speed on the V3 Max is 28 miles per hour. Based on our speed test, we were able to hit 30.2 miles per hour according to a smartphone GPS and 28 miles per hour according to the remote controller. Reaching top speed on this board is pretty difficult and requires a long straightaway with enough run-up. I was only able to hit 26 miles per hour regularly on the board and took multiple attempts on long flat roads to hit 28 miles per hour. Either way, the V3 technically performs as advertised and has a solid top speed for an entry-level board. The second category is the range of the board, and MEEPO claims that the board has a real-world range of 20 miles on a single charge. On our range test, we were only able to get 12 miles out of the board. This range test was conducted with a 150-pound rider in 75 Fahrenheit degree weather on hilly terrain riding aggressively, so I would consider this a worst-case scenario. Range is subject to a variety of factors, but 20 miles maximum actually seems reasonable for a board with a 324 watt-hour battery. Beginners riding the V3 Max more leisurely should definitely expect more than we got, and I wouldn't be surprised to see real-world range results approaching 20 miles out of this board. The third category is the hill climbing ability of the board. MEEPO actually have a hill percent rating for the maximum steepness of hill that this board can climb, and they claim that the V3 can climb hills up to 22%, which actually seems reasonable. The steepest hills that we took this board on were around 10 degrees, so we did not explicitly test this maximum. On 10-degree hills, the board was able to cruise up at around 10 miles per hour, which is solid for a hub motor board. This being said, the V3 Max is still clearly an entry-level product, a tier below mid-range belt drive boards. Overall though, I was very impressed with the hill climbing performance with the upgraded dual 800 watt motors, given the pricing as an entry-level option. The fourth category is the acceleration and braking of the board. In terms of smoothness, both the acceleration and the brakes are very smooth and intuitive for a responsive and well-tuned ride. The V3 Max very clearly rides like a budget hub motor board in terms of the strength of the acceleration. The 800 watt motors are a definite boost over the V5 and most other boards that use 500 watt hub motors, but the jump is marginal when you compare it with mid-tier boards. Still, the acceleration is enough for any rider to enjoy and is ideal for beginners. The brakes on the board do their job of bringing the rider to a stop smoothly. Considering the 28 mile per hour top speed though, I do wish they were stronger. Overall, there's nothing huge to report home here as the board performs exactly how I would expect it to, with marginal incremental improvements over past versions. The fifth category is the ride feeling of the board, which is a little subjective as everyone has their own preferences. Budget hub motor boards often struggle in this area for me with their thin urethane hub sleeves and lack of refinement to cut costs. The V3 Max is among the most comfortable, if not the most comfortable board that I've tried in this class though. It's a far cry from the budget boards of the past that are simply unpleasant to ride. This is an easy to ride board with a beginner friendly deck profile that is wide enough and long enough for a stable riding stance. The mellow concave is great for a comfortable yet controlled experience that reduces foot fatigue. I also appreciate the healthy amount of flex that makes a massive difference in absorbing road vibrations and cracks. This flex is key as the thin urethane sleeves struggle to keep up with cracks and bumps, which is typical for a hub motor board. This board isn't ideal for rough riding, but it can hold its own. It's better than its predecessors and many other boards in this price range, but don't be expecting too much. The trucks on the board are exactly what I'd expect from MEEPO. They can be tightened up for a really stable ride at top speed, or loosened up for a carvy experience that's a lot of fun with the springy deck. Overall, the V3 Max ranks highly for an entry-level hub motor board, though the experience still falls short of more premium options. Our final section is the miscellaneous topics, where we address our other findings that we have from the board. First, let's talk about portability. At just 19.8 pounds, this is a fairly light electric longboard for the performance that it has. I love the handle that's integrated into the deck that might look a little bit goofy, but it makes carrying the board so much easier. This is a really solid option if you're looking for an easy to carry budget board. Second, let's address the advantages to hub motors. These are whisper quiet compared to belt or gear drives, which makes for a very stealthy ride. This attracts far less attention to the board while riding. The use of hub motors also results in far less rolling resistance on the board, which makes for a closer experience to traditional longboarding and makes pushing the board on a dead battery much easier. After spending the last few months with the MEEPO V3 Max, here are my concluding thoughts on the board. At just $469 at the moment, the V3 Max gives more for the price and is a pretty compelling entry-level option. The board has a top speed of at least 28 miles per hour, a range of at least 12 miles, class-leading dual 800-watt motors that yield solid uphill climbing and acceleration, and is relatively comfortable. If I were to sum up this board in one word, it would be simple. It does exactly what it's supposed to do as an entry-level board, with incremental improvements in specs and features that continue to push our expectations forward. That is all we have for this review on the MEEPO V3 Max. If you are interested in learning more about this product, we will have a link to it in the description below. If you have any questions or comments, also let us know in the comment section, and make sure to tell us which electric skateboard you want to see reviewed next. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more portable electric vehicle reviews. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.